Welcome to Season 2 of On The Spot. At On The Spot, we discuss the issues.
Welcome to the show. This is On The Spot, and I'm your host, Stella. Now, as we all know, a number of countries across the world went on lockdowns. This meant that a number of people were confined to their homes, leaving social media as the means of an outlet to rant, rave, or become the motivational speaker that they have always wanted to be. And one of such videos caught my attention. Well, I stumbled on a video online where a Nigerian guy was ranting during one of their COVID-19 lockdowns last year on tax payment and holding ourselves accountable. Now, unfortunately, this is the stark reality in most African states, countries, whatever you want to call it. And first of all, take a look at the video.
Nigeria not get money. We will be the citizens. We have ripped up our government. You won't use our own. They tell the Americans they give their citizens $1,200. You won't use that to compare us. You don't ever see Americans no pay tax. You don't ever see illegal connection. Let me tell you, you cannot live in America if you don't pay tax. Go and ask. How many tax do they pay as Africans for Africa? How many tax do we pay? We connect illegal connection. We connect everything. Everything about us is illegal. Dude, we don't pay for any legit thing. We pay for the illegal stuffs. Get that into your head. We don't pay tax. Where you feel say the money won't come from? Where you feel say the money won't come from? If Nigeria get money, why they never they share 500K for everybody? You sit there, you talk like dog. If you carry this your mentality wanna get for Nigeria, you think say you fit can go survive for abroad. Ask your brothers so they don't leave Nigeria, go abroad, go stay. What are the same mentality where would they live? You say they live for us, now they say they live for there. You will be human being where you believe say you deserve what you got the way Americans say they treat their citizens. You will believe say you deserve them. Come outside, come talk say you deserve them. Whether not be one bullets, they go tell less you. Come defend them now. Can't go court if you don't feel win. What is your contribution to the nation? What do you contribute? You sit down all day now. They cure so they tell they drink ogogoro they see you now. Now sit down there all day play draft money till night. Cause they talk say make government cause they give you don't see where government they share money for war. I mean they not tell you say this now war. Not till you hear now you go tell no say this now war. This is a bio war. They tell you now say sit down for us. Now the only thing you want to do, you won't carry your leg. Come and say you deserve the same rights what American citizens deserve. What do you do? Are you a bona fide taxpayer? Are you a bona fide taxpayer? How much do you generate for the country legally? America today, do you think that they dash everybody money for the streets? Go and check. It is their taxpayers' refund. What do? You come to my page and you talk to me anyhow because you stay in your myopic, your medieval Nigerian. Now they misbehave. Now no get sense. Ask any Nigerian where don't live Nigeria, go outside. May they tell you how they live for a year. If I not get money, I no get light for my house. No, I no go even try and think as I want to go connect illegal. But in Nigeria, what do? You have all the privilege to misbehave. You have all the privilege to every single person for Nigeria. They exploit the Nigerian resources one way or the other. But you sit down there to say the government is bad. You are bad. You will be the citizens will not be bad people. Because if you are not bad people, you go get the moral to stand for your right. But you don't have the moral. Because you know say you yourself, you're not clean. You exploit the nation too. You exploit the nation. Now make Nigeria broke. If you don't know now, Nigeria broke. Nigeria not get that money to afford for anybody. And not only just politicians, because your papa and your mama, your brother and your uncle, now they work for that same civil service, so you know they feel they deliver. How many times you don't sit down and tell your papa, say, you will be NEPA, you papa will be NEPA. Why we know they get light for this country? How many times you don't tell your father that? Your papa will they work for general hospital. How much you don't tell your papa, say, papa, why this hospital don't they function? You never feel query your parents, your father, your uncles when they work for this civil service. You sit down there, they blame government. You think say government and want now exploited people. Do you think government are exploited people? Now you the rulers. Not be we the rule ourselves.
Well, now this video got me thinking about the reality here in Sierra Leone. The expectations of citizens from their government in the provision of basic social amenities like good roads, stable electricity, strong, functional and efficient healthcare and educational systems, which are the basic fundamental rights of the citizens. But the number one question is, how many people actually do pay their taxes? Do we understand the benefit of paying our taxes? Do we even know what type of tax we should be paying? So, the On the Spot team decided to take a walk down the streets of Freetown to know what people really think about paying their taxes.
Tax na something and the way government they generate money where it develop country. As citizen of this country, anybody where you know say they do business, they do anything about business, you supposed to get tax and only make the country go grow.
Tax a revenue collection where government can do. We I believe say me understand about tax is that it's a revenue collection by the government.
Tax is well basically they are the amounts we pay to government for doing business, or it's part of the income I generate that I pay to government.
Tax na a contribution where government level on citizen or whosoever for contribute to the revenue of the state.
Tax na little income wey self can contribute towards government development.
And to me understanding, like I believe say tax and half of money the way we citizens they pay for help for bill, hospitals and other things there for we the citizens in the county.
Well, to me understanding, tax na money where we they pay to government, where then they use for do some other stuff for like payment or use on other things them.
Well, I understand the word tax. Now the tax money then they take make road, build government hospitals them, pay workers, the government workers them. Now that I understand the word tax.
Tax na for develop country.
Yes, I dey pay tax.
Yeah, I dey pay tax actually. I dey pay goods and service tax, GST. Because when I dey go buy me bill there, they pull the GST out of them. So that goods and service tax I dey pay.
Yes, I do pay taxes. It's the domestic tax, the domestic income tax is what I pay.
Yes, I dey pay PAYE tax, I dey pay withholding tax, I dey pay custom and excess tax.
Yes sir, I dey pay tax. I dey pay two tax. I dey pay one for myself, two and for the shop. Well, actually make him pay the local tax.
Yes, I dey pay tax. Well, now the tax where the local government officers they can collect now road to the community.
To be sincere enough, no. Because the first like I know sabi who say for pay and they never can meet me say for pay tax.
People they pay tax because for let we develop this country.
People they pay tax because government say they for pay tax. Because a law by the government say anybody who they do business for pay tax, irrespective of the type of business we they do.
Well, we pay tax to government to help us do the development programs that government do embark upon.
People they pay tax for contribute to the development and the running of a state.
Well, I believe say we can normally pay tax for let we self able fund government in a way that we then say go able feel fast up the developmental issue of the country.
Yeah, like an important question because I believe say we citizens them like if we pay tax, that's going to for help the government for build some roads, hospital for we the citizens as a whole.
Well, I feel say people have to pay tax because through the tax, I feel say now the government they able to subsidize with for do other things there. Apart from the money where like maybe international work can help towards the development of the country. So the tax the way we they pay, I believe say now the government they use for pay the workers them where they work under government.
Why they pay tax for help the government? Because of all the government for pay worker. Let our country develop.
Well, tax is good for pay because it dey generate income na country and for develop country.
Well, why make I feel say people dem for pay tax? For help we sef na the country. Tax dey benefit me and you. To go by pikin dem education and good roads, right? Woman dey hold the work, dem dey pay dem to time. So the tax e don benefit we by right.
Well, with tax money wey we dey use, na one of the development and wey dey bring, for let we get good light, education, then even good road.
We pay tax to government to help them provide facilities, necessary facilities like building roads, providing water supply, electricity and so on.
Well, by right, one development like for light, water. Now don't do them do for side review.
Well, tax na im dey help we more followable improve we country. Like for instance, let's say for make road, for build bridges and other important things, be say e help we own country.
Well, to me, the tax money dem go use am like for do the roads and also light and also the water supply. So I feel say na through all things and the government dey use tax money for develop the country.
The tax money they contribute in the development of the country, like for social amenities, building schools, making roads, like that. Pay salaries, so the tax money gets a lot to do with government.
The taxes we pay normally goes to government for provision of basic amenities like roads, electricity and water supply.
Well, government give the power to NRA. Now one of the big institutions, and the way government don't give the power for collect all tax money, way for going in fund, coffer.
So I believe say there are people where government recommend for do that job there, so that they entitled them for collect tax. Apart of the people, they know that but no entitled for collect tax. That we have NRA at the same time city council, where they collect local tax.
We normally pay our taxes to the National Revenue Authority, the body that is charged with collecting taxes in the country.
Well, government give responsibility to agencies, trusted agencies like for we na NRA.
Well, actually, government can impose people and when themselves can collect tax. The way we say, we self not can know them normally, but like we can see them when they can come our area.
NRA na the responsibility for me to collect tax in our country.
Well, they all me know. City council then can collect, government worker can collect, and they give money where pieces and they collect. NRA they collect. NRA they roll more.
Now city council will they see. Don't they see NRA, but NRA na business tax they collect.
Well, those were just what a few people had to say. So to help us put this conversation into context, I have Alfred Akibabet of the Bertz firm, a tax accounting and advisory consultancy firm. Now, he is the co-founder of the Freetown Business School. He has over 18 years experience as a tax expert, having worked with the National Revenue Authority, where he started out as a tax collector before climbing up the ranks to becoming the Deputy Commissioner of the NRA. Now, also joining this conversation is Dr. Philip Kagbo, who is Director of Monitoring, Research and Planning at the National Revenue Authority, NRA. Now, his department is responsible for monitoring of institutional performance, conduct of research, such as revenue enhancement, compliance, and others. And most importantly, leading the corporate or strategic planning and revenue forecasting of the institution. They are here with me. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
We'll be right back.
Domestic revenue mobilization is a key instrument for the government of Sierra Leone in reducing poverty, increasing financial independence, achieving middle-income status, and charting the path for new directions. From supporting the free quality education, good roads, healthcare, electricity, and more.
Domestic revenue mobilization is very critical when it comes to national development.
Through the Asikoda World, we have developed beautiful management tools. We have also developed systems in which it will bring transparency and help to the importer, to the broker.
iTax is a platform for all your domestic taxes. The electronic cash register system is the game changer.
Let's support government by paying our taxes. For more information, visit the nearest NRA office or log on to our website www.nra.gov.sl.
Welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining me here. It's a pleasure. So I know both of you have seen, the videos. I know we all watched that video with the Nigerian guy ranting, and which unfortunately is the truth about most African states. We don't want to pay, or we don't like, or we don't pay taxes. Either one of the three, each and every African somewhere falls within that. Either you don't want to pay tax, you don't know what tax to pay, or you just want to evade taxes in general. And, going out on the streets of Freetown, engaging people, you get the sense that people do know what taxes are, why they should pay taxes. But the fundamental issue that you find across, all quarters is the fact that they don't know what tax to pay. They don't know where to go about paying the taxes, and just the accessibility of the whole facility of payment tax processing itself. So I'm going to start off with you, Dr. Philip. Your department is very integral, monitoring, research, and planning. You've seen people's reaction. Having been in the NRA for quite a while, let's first of all talk about the progress that has been made so far. NRA has been now in existence for a couple of years. What has the progress looked like for Sierra Leoneans and just basically people residing in Sierra Leone complying to payment of taxes?
Yes, thank you very much, Stella. It's very interesting to actually see how NRA has actually progressed from the time when NRA was established as an institution, that was in 2002, onto some points when we are implementing several reforms, and on to this point now in terms of, let me take the progress in terms of revenue performance. But of course, the institution was established to assess and collect domestic revenue as far as its core mandate, as well as enforce the tax laws. Of course, in addition to trade facilitation as well as border security, amongst other aspects of the mandate of the institution. So in terms of the revenue collection or revenue assessment, that's a key one. So as an institution also responsible to actually enforce the tax laws, we are supposed to see that compliance has actually improved from where it was even prior to the setting up of the institution to where it is now. Of course, getting statistics can be sometimes, getting very reliable statistics in terms of compliance can be a challenge. But of course, we know initially, now we're talking about compliance, particularly of the large taxpayers. I may talk about compliance from the SMEs, but for the large taxpayers, we have no compliance has been averaging around 80 to 90% for the different tax types. If you take for GST, for large taxpayers, they have a compliance rate of 91% compared to what it was. Well, again, there was no GST at the time NRA was actually established. We only had GST in 2009. And they started operationalizing it in 2010. But even before then, I've seen that compliance has improved in terms of GST. Similarly, for even corporate tax, it's actually around 87% in terms of for the large taxpayers. So generally, compliance in terms of those who file their tax returns on time, that is what I'm talking about here. It has actually improved. It's better off for the large taxpayers. But when it comes down to the medium and small taxpayers, that is where we still have a challenge because take, for instance, the tax districts we have in Freetown. We have tax districts Freetown East, Freetown Central, and Freetown West. These are three NRA offices that are actually handling the taxation of the small, medium, and micro enterprises. So for those, particularly small and micro enterprises, so for those in terms of compliance, the average we have is actually ranges between 30% to 70%.
Right.
So that's quite low compared to what you see in the large taxpayers. So there's still a challenge in terms of compliance. But if you look at revenue, we have actually improved revenue since NRA was established. In fact, if I just take from 2010 or so, we used to collect less than $1 trillion per year. Now in 2019, we collect up to 5.4 trillion. And in 2020, despite the COVID, of course, it was a challenge, but still we're able to collect even more than what we collected in 2019, or 5.5 trillion. So we are trying as much as we can, but of course there are several challenges. So in terms of reforms, there are several reforms we are now implementing. We know this tax system is quite manual as it was. We even started amalgamating the domestic tax department. It used to be have income tax separate from GST. After we had GST in 2009, 2010, we had to form it to be called a domestic tax department. We started seeing, okay, let's try and see how we can centralize tax registration. We had a TIN system around 2009. But of course, again, we had some of that, but that's still not sufficient. So of late now, we have a lot of reforms, particularly in the past 3-4 years, in terms of tax administration. We are trying to see how we can roll out ITAS, Integrated Tax Administration System. And when we have this ITAS, it will help us in terms of reducing interaction between the taxpayers and, of course, the tax officials. Because you do online registration, you do online filing of tax returns, you do electronic payment of your taxes as well. And it also introduces a portal for interaction where you can communicate with your taxpayers as well as NRA through a portal or an email portal. So that's for ITAS. And also for the ECR, we have what we call electronic cash register to actually see how we can record sales, electronic sales of businesses that are registered for GST. Because at the moment, this is where we have a lot of challenge. People will tell you this is what you have sold because they do it manually. You have books of accounts. But for now, we say, okay, whatever you sell has to go through this electronic cash register. So once you record the sales there, we get automatically at the NRA because we have a system that links with our server. So we're able to know what you're selling. But as a businessman, it's not only an advantage to us as an institution, but even you as a GST registered taxpayer, it's also an advantage because at least you have now a system where you have a record or electronic record of your sales. Before then, even for you to prepare your tax returns, your GST returns at the end of the day, you have to go and look whether you even have your books and look at manually what you have sold for the day. But everything will be in electronic format. And you can easily source from it and then just provide those statistics.
A lot of emphasis are being placed on businesses. So I'm going to ask a very general question. Is every citizen required or every resident in Sierra Leone, anyone residing in Sierra Leone, required to pay taxes, and how? Okay, I'll come into that, but I think let me start by even emphasizing why it is even important to pay taxes before I come whether every citizen. Probably many people know why it is important to pay taxes. So for the main one, anybody will tell you for actually development, so that your government will have enough resources to fund public services. But that is one. But in economics, if you do economics, they tell you tax people actually for redistribution of income, because you have to tax those who are rich, those who have the resources to ensure those who do not have resources will also have a fair share of the national cake. So that will also reduce some kind of social issues as well. But also for the smaller taxpayers, in those days we used to focus only on the large taxpayers to actually collect taxes. But in contemporary taxation, they'll tell you even smaller taxpayers, we also want them to be captured into tax nets for issues of accountability. I mean, you can better hold your government accountable for promises they make, commitment that they make, if you also contribute to a tax net. So even the smaller taxpayers, it's also important to take them away from the informal sector to more formal. So in terms of the type of taxes that they pay, whether every citizen is supposed to pay tax. So again, if you are registered with the NRA, it depends on the tax, it depends on the business that you are doing. If you are a smaller business, it depends on the type of business you are doing. You are registered with NRA 14, and based on that, that is the type of tax you are supposed to pay. But of course, every citizen pays tax indirectly. Even if you are not paying directly because you are not registered as a taxpayer, because you are not maybe you are not a sole proprietor, you are not a partnership, or you are not a partnership, or you are not a company. But the fact that you buy goods in the shop that are actually GST taxable, their supplies are GST taxable, indirectly you have paid tax to government.
But also if you are employed in an institution that for which you are paid PAYE above the threshold, then if you are paid your salary above the threshold of 600,000 per month, then obviously you are also paying taxes. But those that you are not going directly to the NRA to pay that tax, because it's your employer that's actually withholding that tax for you and pays to the NRA. So the NRA registers your employer, that's your organization that you are working with, that's actually paying. But indirectly, you are also paying taxes. If you also import goods at customs, then obviously you are also paying taxes. So virtually almost every individual is supposed to pay tax because it's important to pay tax. Because if you don't pay tax, then government will not, of course, you will not get the public services that you want to enjoy.
Let me move over to you, Alfred. Alfred, this is a field you've played in for literally maybe almost all your life. So you're an expert in this area, having worked in the NRA, and you own an accounting and tax firm, and even running a business school. Listening to the reactions of people, and this is echoed across many sectors and many areas, where people understand the importance of taxation, why they should pay tax, and in some cases are willing to pay taxes, but have no idea what tax to pay and how to go about it. Having played in this sector for a very long time, what is the main problem here? Why this seeming lack of information within the populace?
Well, I think the key thing is there's one big aspect of tax administration, which is called improving voluntary compliance. I had a boss that was eventually head of the Ghana Revenue Authority one time, and when he came to Sierra Leone, when we're not much more improved how we are, let's say 15 years ago, he said to me, which was a really funny thing, and he said, look, I think Sierra Leonean taxpayers are the most tax compliant. And I was like, why are you saying that? Well, he said, look, you don't enforce, you don't go out there, but people still come and pay. So it means that to some extent, people do know their responsibility and things like that, which was really funny. But if you design a tax system where it is really difficult for people to access the services, then it means that it's much more difficult for people to pay because they don't have the information. And obviously it's like one of the things that Philip said earlier on, the fact that they're actually implementing the integrated tax administration system shows that they want to make it computerized. So it means that if somebody has to pay, you don't need to go to an office, you know what I mean? Opening more branches, opening more access and things like that. So more and more, as the NRA actually implements these reforms in terms of, let's say, making their systems more computerized, they're planning to actually come up with something they call a block management system, which will actually target more small taxpayers and people which are now in the informal sector and actually having more access to more offices. Earlier on, Philip did mention that there are 3 tax offices in Freetown, expanding that to, let's say, 10 plus, you know what I mean? Just like a small shop, you know what I mean? And you even see it. So the thing is, when you even look at tax administration, you look at maybe what banks are doing, you know what I mean? Let's say 15 years ago, 20 years ago in Sierra Leone, you didn't have banks that had a computerized system. It was very difficult to access banking services. Everybody had to stand in long lines, and I remember growing up, you see people in front of commercial bank waiting, but now it's much more easier for people. So, and now let's say banks are even having small shops that people can easily access to, let's say mobile money, or let's say access transfers from overseas and things like that. So once you actually have a proper strategy in terms of voluntary compliance and ticking those boxes, it means that people are more aware of what they're actually supposed to pay. So it means that you'll have less confusion in people saying, well, I pay tax. I actually don't know how to pay taxes. And I don't know the taxes that actually impact me, whether I'm actually going to pay indirectly through when I purchase goods, consumption taxes, which is GST, or maybe when I earn income, right? So even the question you asked earlier in terms of, let's say, what you're actually supposed to pay. So in terms of the way the tax system is structured in Sierra Leone and most countries, like how Philip said earlier, it's more like a progressive tax system, wherein people that earn more pay more. So it means that, for example, if you're a business owner and your revenue is less than 10 million leones, you don't have to pay taxes. But it means that if it's above that, you have to pay taxes. And even people that are in different bands, so if you're a small and micro taxpayer in 2013, the small and micro taxpayer regime was introduced. And it was a little bit much easier than the normal tax system. But this year it was even simplified further to say that you can only pay 3% of your turnover. So it means that you don't need to keep records, a lot of records, you just need to know your sales, you know what I mean? So once you make it more accessible, because you also have to manage the fact that if it's a top company, a multinational, they can hire accountants, right, to be able to keep their records. But if it's a small businessman or a small entrepreneur that actually just started, it means that they don't want to think about taxes. Taxes is not their main thing. The main thing is actually bringing their product and services to the market and make money. Like taxes is right back of the checklist and things like that. So how you can meet them at that point to ensure that you don't want them, because at the end of the day, it's a two-way thing. Both taxes and developments go together. They have a positive curve. In terms of there's more development and more economic growth in the country, it means that there are more taxes. So if you can ensure that you make the system much more easier for businesses to comply and also to be able to operate within it, it means that you give those businesses enough space for them to grow, which allows them to pay more taxes in the future when they become a medium taxpayer or when they become a large taxpayer. So I think these are really, really critical things. But I think generally speaking, to just conclude that in terms of the point I started off, in terms of voluntary compliance, the other huge part of it is sensitization, right? Having access to that information, knowing what to do and things like that, having tax guides and all of that. So it means that people much more understand it. When we were in the NIA implementing GST in 2010, we did things like having it in different languages. We had things like going to schools and universities so they actually start knowing their responsibilities, because it's also proven in other countries that if school children and university children understand the taxes, they can pass that information to their parents who are taxpayers. So all of these different things are things that bring together to just form this big block that ensures that people are aware of it and people obviously...
So sensitization is very important. Clearly, maybe that's why a lot of people seem to know the importance of why they should pay taxes. I think now the gap that we have here is people knowing what type of tax and how to go about it. And this is where I'm going to ask, you run a tax and accounting firm, how firms like yours come into supporting individuals, businesses, and the NRA in helping to pass across this message, and most importantly, supporting individuals. Remember we had a conversation where I said that even myself, I have my own very small business, but the challenge is just understanding the whole entire tax structure and just going about tax returns and the likes. And there comes in the question of what sort of support the businesses and individuals have in getting this information and just basically going through the whole tax process. But we'll come to that in a bit. This is On the Spot. We'll take a break and we'll be back.
The ball as a terminal, I don't lay my hands on the English language question paper. It's only 500,000 euros per person. When I go, young lady, you can wait. I want to discuss something with you. Please. Okay. As I don't tell you earlier, I get all them question papers there.
Mr. Kamala, please stop. Stop.
Your company all corporate. Why you blame me sir to get? Or you want to spend the rest of your life to take this whole exam again?
What about if I stay with you tomorrow?
Tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 12 o'clock, come meet me. Who's it? Oh, Kaisa, young lady.
Good afternoon, sir.
You're more beautiful and sexy.
Thank you very much, sir.
Wow. Take off your clothes. Wow. Come close to me. I don't tell you now, all the leakages in this, I don't lay my hands on them. I get them all in different subjects.
Yes, sir. I'll be working on it.
Sure, I'm not staying on. Scorpion Squad from Anti-Corruption Commission. Mister, you're under arrest. Officer, now arrest him. What's your job have you do? How much job have you do, officer? There we go.
We, the teachers them, we will always be role models. We will never get involved in such a shameful act.
All right, welcome back. I still have with me here Alfred Akibabet of the Betts firm and Dr. Philip Kagbo from the NRA, who is Director of Planning, Research, and there's something else again. Monitoring, yes, from the NRA. So before taking the break, I was asking how firms like yours can come in to support firms, businesses, and just basically helping them through the process of taxation and also supporting, because the NRA can't be everywhere. Sure. And they can't get this sensitization work done all by themselves. So where do firms like yours come in?
Well, I think as a Sierra Leone-owned tax accounting firm, it's a responsibility as a business, generally speaking, to ensure that we bring that experience. So we obviously have the first responsibility we have is to our clients. But what we tell clients, the reason why clients come to us is because they know that we're able to actually give them good advice to ensure that they don't fall short of the tax law and obviously have penalties and interest. So all the clients we have, the first thing we tell them is, look at 4 major obligations. You should register for all taxes that apply to you. You should pay all taxes timely, you should file your returns timely, and you should accurately report. And we also have the responsibility, professional responsibility, to ensure that they do that. But in addition to that, what we do is even going beyond that, and I think we are one of the first ones that have actually started to do that as a tax accounting firm, is providing more information, more detailed information. So now one of our, like a flagship publication every year, is to issue an analysis of the Finance Act. So the Finance Act is the law that actually brings in new tax laws each and every year that actually impacts all the tax laws. So what we've done starting this year for Finance Act 2021 is actually to issue a publication that actually details it and explains it more, not only looking at the law, explains it more at the impacts and things like that. We've started to do tax briefs now to ensure that people to break things down. So we just did one on GST exemptions to actually explain that there are 26 exemptions, what is the impact on business, and we'll continue to do them. So it's our responsibility also through our social media pages to come up with like small facts about taxes so people understand it, because it's not only to our clients, but also to the public
yeah.
and taxpayers as a whole. Because at the end of the day, once you actually can improve tax compliance in the country, it means that it impacts businesses, it impacts economic development. And when it impacts economic development, even if we're doing it as being patriotic, but it also may bring business to us in the future. So we're trying as best as possible to do that, because the NI can't do it all the time. So we have to ensure that since we're in that space, and the fact that I've been working in this space, not only in Sierra Leone, but other countries, I could also be able to bring that perspective to ensure that people understand the tax system more in the country.
How far have we gone in this whole entire process, taking your experience in and out of Sierra Leone?
Yeah.
How far gone are we in our taxation process as a country?
Well, you'll be surprised that we've done extremely well. Well, I wouldn't say extremely well, but we've done really relatively well compared to many countries. There are many countries that we may see and think that they have a perfect tax system. But when you actually see what's actually happening on the ground, we're even better off than them in some aspects. But it does mean that also we do have a long way to go. But what you see over time, which I think I've been happy for us as a taxman and now in the private sector, is that there are moves to ensure that, number one, tax compliance improves. But on the other hand, also to ensure that voluntary compliance improves. But that doesn't mean that it's perfect, you know what I mean? We still have challenges, we still fight to the NRA for some things in terms of them ensuring that they encourage businesses more to have more input into, let's say, tax policy issues, because these are things that actually impact them. So we want a situation wherein, last year, for example, when the new Finance Act was being drafted, I worked with the NRA through an FCADO project to ensure that private sector businesses were able to have some inputs into the Finance Act, because at the end of the day, it impacts their businesses.
Yes.
And when they bring the business perspective to the taxman, it means that the taxman understands it, because as nature, the first thing for the taxman is collecting taxes,
Yes.
having more money for government, because that's what the government will want, you know what I mean? But on the other hand, if businesses are not comfortable with the tax laws, but also it impacts them negatively, it means that when business goes down, it impacts its tax. So that is a key thing that is very, very important to ensure that it
Let
keeps
me
improving.
ask you, Philip, as we talk about the impact of taxes, is there the possibility of reduction of taxes? Because when you go about and you hear people and they say, oh, taxes are high, or we have a lot of taxes, businesses are not doing very well in time of COVID, and they can give you so many reasons why they want a reduction in taxes. So is there the possibility of government as a whole looking into reduction of taxes and maybe identifying new areas of possible taxations, at least to ease the burden on the private sector?
There is, and honestly, this is what has been happening. In fact, the focus of government in terms of tax policy now is mostly about enforcing compliance or enhancing compliance. As Alfred spoke about voluntary compliance, that is our way of going now, because we are doing a lot of things to actually encourage compliance, not only of even the big taxpayers, but even the small taxpayers. That's why we are introducing domestic tax preparer scheme, for instance, for taxpayers that cannot even afford the big tax firms.
Yeah.
They have domestic taxpayers who can help them to prepare the tax returns, as well as other stuff as well. And we are introducing the block management system to take our tax administration services to the taxpayers. So there are a lot of things we are doing. So the focus of government actually is to enhance compliance rather than increasing tax rates, because tax policy has the role of adjusting the tax rates, the tax base, and also determining who pays. So for the past years, you realize that we have even been reducing our tax rates. Actually, if you look at the Finance Act 2022, as Alfred has indicated, we had an engagement with the private sector. Very much, it was a very good engagement, to the extent, if you look at the Finance Act, it was actually a Finance Act that actually encouraged a lot of domestic industry, domestic manufacturing sector, to the extent we said if you even establish your factory outside of Freetown, instead of paying a 25% corporate tax, pay 15% corporate tax. Yeah, so we introduced a lot of concession, kind of increasing the import duty rate for competing goods that are actually produced locally, just a way of encouraging domestic manufacturing companies to actually come up. To the extent that we had a lot of exemptions, in fact, for GST, we introduced a lot of exempt supply. So in fact, actually, that is what government has been doing, reducing the tax rate. In fact, if you also look at our average tax rates, I did some research. We looked at several countries in Africa. We looked at the average. If you just take the PIT, the personal income tax, or let's say PAYE, and they also look at the corporate income tax, as well as the GST. In other countries, call it value added tax, the VAT. We added these three taxes. For Sierra Leone, the average, if you add that, the average is 23%. When you look at sub-Saharan Africa, the average is 26%. That just tells you that our tax rates in Sierra Leone, they are already lower than even the average for sub-Saharan Africa. So not that our tax rates are very high. It's just because many people are not used to paying taxes. So once you get them into the tax net and they get to start paying, then they will think, oh, the tax rates are very high.
So as we talk about getting people into the tax net, you did mention about that there is a large informal sector and a large portion, a proportion of that number do not pay taxes. What's the strategy being put in place to get more of those into the tax bracket?
Yeah, so that's fine. So that's a good one as well, because if you look at, there was a World Bank report that actually estimated that 88% of the non-agricultural self-employment population in Sierra Leone is informal. Then the SLEAS, that is the Sierra Leone Integrated Household Survey done by Statistics together with World Bank, in 2018, it's also estimated 86% of the economically active population in Sierra Leone being informal. So that just tells you the size of the informal sector. So it's quite huge. So when you actually compare tax GDP ratios, sometimes you say, oh, Sierra Leone, our tax revenue GDP ratio is still low compared to other countries. That's true, because our informal sector is quite large, and these are people who do not pay tax. And the GDP is a composite of all of them, including the informal sector. So if you don't say the economically active people, already 86% of them are informal, then it makes it very difficult for us to collect taxes. So the strategy of NRA is actually to see how we can get these people into the formal sector. So one thing we have been doing, I think I spoke about the BMS, the block management system. That is one critical thing we are trying to do. We are at the moment, we are pilots in Freetown, Western area. In fact, data collection will start next week. We've recruited up to 890 enumerators to actually do data collection in Freetown or the entire Western area. So with this one, we already have 3 tax districts in Freetown that are handling the small and micro enterprises, because these are the guys that are hard to tax. So for them, we have 3 tax districts, as I explained earlier. But now we want to further divide them now into further blocks. And for you take the tax districts for East, it starts from PZ on to Waterloo. That is quite huge. They cannot handle the tax population. A lot of businesses there. So for the entire Western area, instead of 3 blocks, 3 tax districts, you can now have 10 blocks. So these 10 blocks, we are starting first, the first phase of the block management system by registering all taxpayers. They are not registered into the tax net of the NR. So we are going block by block, street by street, identifying all people who are, taxpayers, who are supposed to have registered, who are within the threshold. We look at them, we know within our business, at least you must be earning, at least you must be making, 10 million per year as income. So we're able to register you. So after registering them now, the other thing, those don't register taxpayers and leave them. Once they register and leave them, they go back to what they're doing. So we are going to also establish tax administration services. So for these blocks, we are going to have offices, NRA offices there. So we are taking our tax administration services closer to the taxpayers. So these are those ways to get them into the tax net. So first registering them, but also taking tax administration services closer to them, so that at least we can get them. But in addition, I also spoke about the domestic tax preparer scheme, wherein they will also be there to help these smaller taxpayers in terms of keeping books of accounts and then filing tax returns. So with that way, we are hoping that we hope to bring these guys into the tax net. But also, I know Usiwa is also funding ban to actually conduct a survey on the potential of the informal sector. That one is also ongoing as I'm talking to you now. So we also want to see what exists in the informal sector. How can we incentivize people to register, to come to the NRA and register? What is it that will entice people to say, let me pay taxes? Or let me register with NRA to pay taxes. So once we get that, we'll also further enhance these are the current policies or current reforms in terms of the BMS, in terms of the DTPS, to get people into the tax net. So these are the things we're doing.
All right, we'll take a break, and when we'll come back, we'll just sort of round up the discussion, and you just basically share with viewers how they can access the NRA's support team, and as well your firm, especially for small firms, small businesses like us. We don't have a lot of money. How do we get to access the BUT firm? Hopefully, there wouldn't be too much cost. It's something that small firms like us can afford. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about access to your facilities. This is On the Spot. We'll take a break and we'll be back.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Abu. I am calling for your rental tax payment.
Oh my goodness.
Hello? This is a call from the...
Your colleague is on the other line. Can you just please hold?
You are a landlord or property agent? You don't hear about rental income tax? As property owner or agent where they collect rent, the law say you for pay tax and are you tax identification number where they call team you they use for pay 'em.
Yes, me fumble them. The law say without this tax identification number, you not go able to pay your tax. And if you not pay your tax, the law go bet you tranga one. Welcome, sir. Please sit.
Thank you.
We don't make them easy for you now. The law say, since you the collect rent we pass 7.2 million leons, you for come to NIA and pay your rental tax just after where your tenants don't pay you done.
So no more calls from everywhere.
You go just get one SMS or one phone call. We go remind you, sir.
Thank you very much.
For no more, go to any NIA office near you or visit www.nia.gov.sl.
Remember, paying taxes is required by law.
All right, welcome back. My guest is still here with me, Alfred and Philip. So as we quickly round up, I'm going to start off with you, Philip. How can people access the NRA facility, especially for people who are so busy? They don't have the time to find NRA office in one location. what are the options available to people?
So first, the option checking our website. We get a lot of information from our NRA website. We have a lot of information on taxpayer education and sensitization. Even some of the systems we are rolling out, they are mostly web-based systems. If you look at whether you want to get access to a Secuda, it's web-based. Access to the ITAS, it will be web-based. So most of these facilities get to our website. You actually get most of you are almost reaching NRA in terms of that's for those from the medium to large taxpayers. But for the smaller ones, as I say, we are going to establish top offices closer to their premises, so where the taxpayers live, so that at the end of the day, we're able to provide services for them, and then it will not take them long. We want to reduce the cost of traveling or the cost of access of NRA resources, and to make things very easy. Because at the end of the day, we want to improve the ease of doing business, and that's why as part of the paying taxes indicators, there are several things we actually do to measure the paying taxes indicator, and these are the things we are targeting at the end in terms of the reforms we are actually trying to introduce.
And there's option of physical support when needed.
There's also physical support. That's why we have taxpayers, we have officials that will be going around as well. In addition, in fact, we'll also be having a data center, a center for taxpayers who may find difficult in actually accessing the NRA resources, even though they are online. That's what I'm saying, they are online. It can be right in your office. Access the enter, you do your registration online, you do your filing of tax returns online, you do your payment of taxes, starting from there. But even before that, even besides that, we'll also be having a data center for any taxpayer who may have difficulties, but also have our staff who also be visiting taxpayers who may be facing difficulties in terms of the systems that we are rolling out. So we'll be there for them, because at the end of the day, if the country is to survive, it depends on how how much tax is paid, and whether everybody tries to pay the tax they are supposed to pay. So at the end of the day, NRA is actually asked to do all of these things, and so we are charged to do that. We have that mandate, and so we have to deliver the mandate by providing us taxpayer services professionally, but also ensuring the taxpayers are not they do not find it very costly to actually pay taxes or even file their tax returns.
And Alfred, maybe the $1 million question would be, how big or how small a firm can access the services of the BERTS firm? And,
really,
and how easy?
And really small, actually. It's also very easy. We do have different solutions in terms of, let's say, our website to be able to access information. And the fact that because I form the BETS firm, I bring the perspective of a tax administration, I know that people need information. It's not all the time they will obviously call us or speak to anybody as part of my team. It means that through our social media handles, the BETS firm, you can actually have information on a much more regular basis. We do have a really strong social media plan in terms of delivering that. It doesn't actually matter. I know that most times when people see like a tax accounting firm, because obviously traditionally it will only be medium or large businesses, but we do have really, really small young entrepreneurs coming in. We have those solutions for them in ensuring that they comply, because I think for us is not only helping our clients, but also holding the tax administration accountable in terms of, like, let's say, it's not like a defensive thing, or ensuring that if something is in the law and we know that our clients are correct, it means that we're able to go to the tax authority and make that strong case to them. So it actually doesn't really matter in terms of whether you're a small or a big entrepreneur, you can actually access us.
For a country like Sierra Leone, where a large percentage are within the informal sector, can that sector or people from that sector still access your services?
And I think as a corporate social responsibility thing, what we all be also thinking about is to also bring some of those taxpayers in, or educate them in addition to what the revenue authority is also doing, so they also have access to that information. Because since I understand tax administration, I know that there are many moving parts. There may be moving parts in terms of what actually the government can actually spend on tax administration. So it means that we could also create that space. And I think it's just a bigger thing in having that kind of strategy, that once we do that, it means that we can also draw some business to us, which should also help us to be able to have more revenue to do things to generally help. And we will obviously continue to do all the things we do for our tax guides or our publications. These are things that we do free of charge. It costs us money, but we see it as a responsibility to our clients and also to taxpayers in general, and also general public for them to be more aware of taxes in the country.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alfred, for joining me on the show. And thank you, Philip.
Thank you for having us.
You both made the conversation so interesting and so enlightening, because even myself, I struggle with tax issues and just basically understanding, because it is quite a very huge subject, and a lot of people, and I would agree with that person who said Sierra Leoneans are actually tax compliant, because, even from the conversations we had with people on the street, you could tell that there is a willingness to pay, but they just actually have no clue. So thank you so much to both of you for breaking it down for myself and my viewers. And I'm sure, I definitely, I'm hopeful, I'm going to be knocking on your door to access your services. Well, thank you so much. This is On the Spot. Coming up next are my final words. In my final words, as citizens and residents of Sierra Leone, there are parts we must play and responsibilities we must fulfill in developing the nation. As I often said, with rights comes responsibilities. Just as it is our right to life, access good health care, water, education, and more from our government, we must play our part by being good citizens, being lawful, and paying our taxes in order to enable government to deliver on our expectations. The fact that a number of people do not understand the structure of taxation in Sierra Leone or how to go about it, I will be sitting down with the Commissioner General next week to get some more understanding on how the institution with the mandate to collect taxes operates. Hopefully, it will help us all become more tax compliant. Thanks to our partner, the National Revenue Authority, and our sponsor, the Anti-Corruption Commission, for supporting us to bring in this show to you. As always, keep watching, keep talking, keep it on the spot. I'll be back again next week, but till then, stay fabulous.